But yeah, it's glad it.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action, I'm ready to...
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. And again, Harry, thank you for that intro. Harry's our station manager at WNHH 103.5. And I have no reluctance to promote his presence. It's a team effort in everything that we do. And my guest today, I got to admit, is Sylvia Cooper. Sylvia, I got to mention on air that I didn't get up till 10:45. The show starts at 11, and normally for the shows, I'm anxious and can't sleep Sunday night and get up early on Monday morning. But this one, I was so relaxed, and so I say that kind of a compliment. That this is I was looking for. This show is a relaxing show that we're going to talk about your book. I Had a Right to Remain Silent. Can you hear me now? Relaxing for me, it might evoke some promise for you, but relaxing for me to read it and just to know that people are, how proud you are of your story and the sharing of your story and the communion of your story with other people. That's what just really made me relax. Normally when I do a show, I'm anxious about what to say, how to say it, but no, you've written I won't say a book of a Bible, but there are words and chapters in the Bible that relate to what you've said in your book. I Had a Right to Remain Silent. Can you hear me now? And so Sylvia Cooper is with us. Sylvia, so tell us, why did you write this book?
Well, Tom, good morning, and thank you for having me. I wrote this book in a very dark point of my life. I was going through, the book actually brings us up to the year 2013. And that's where everything was just going all over the place. It was haywire for me. And in 2015, after I left the workplace, due to my epilepsy condition, things just worsened. I lost my house, as you read in the book. I needed healing, and I didn't know how to begin the healing journey. And so I just started writing one day, just typing, journaling. And I was like, it needs to be more, because I was so broken. And I decided, because I was embarrassed, I was afraid that if anyone knew my story, that they would be judgmental, or, it was just so full of the highs, the lows, some of the things I was embarrassed by and the shame. And I said, and then I heard God softly speak to me, said, if you tell your story, then I will allow the other books to come out of you that you have in your computer that you're thinking about, and it's time. And so for me, it's a healing journey.
And you had mentioned, and thanks for sharing that, you had mentioned that even previously, that this was not your first book per se.
It is not. I wrote my first self-published novel in 2009. I released it with a small publishing company. She was an attorney, and she had one print person. It was a novel. Writing to me is second nature. It is something that I embrace. It's just who I am. I'm very visual. It took me 10 years to write that book. And again, during transition periods in my life, I was able to finish the novel and then, produce it. And then in 2000, I believe 13 or 12, I wrote a stage play based on the novel, Friendship Made on Purpose. And Gail Staggers at the time was a drama teacher at Hill House. Mm-hmm. And spring production was, they performed that based on this.
That's great. That's great. I'm not quite sure, Sylvia, how much to talk specifically about the book, because we want people to buy it. We don't want to give them...
We want people to buy it, and we have such a great event. My team has worked diligently for the release, the dedication on Saturday, and we have, very surprises and things, just a very good event. Not just the signing of the books, it's going to be dedicated. my pastor, Kelsey Steele of Barrack Memorial AME Zion Church, who is listening. He's going to anoint the books. I don't believe anything that God has given me should go out of me without God having his stamp approval and me recognizing him for that. And so that's going to happen on Saturday. There's some performances that's going to happen, and people are coming from all over. Again, I say due to COVID, I had to limit the list. I want people to be safe. But we're really excited about Saturday's event. It's a treat, and it's time for celebration. I've never embraced celebrating because I always hid. I was always hiding and mentally hiding. And so this time around, I'm celebrating.
Indeed. And we will hear you. We will hear you loud and clear on Saturday. And
yes.
And Sylvia, that's really what inspired me as I read the book. I said I used the kind of the economic term when you asked me what I thought. I said it was worthwhile. And I really meant that term, that when you read or do something, do you feel that it's brought any value to your life? It doesn't have to be monetary value. It can be psychic value. And you brought value to my life just reading it. And it's not that the story is unique. I mean, if you're Black, we have a, if we're here in America or anywhere in the world and you consider yourself to be Black or brown, we have a common story that we can relate to. And so many of our stories intersect. But this story is to me it ends, as you say, on we want to celebrate, we can overcome, we can encourage one another. And all those stimuli just kind of came through this to me, and you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself on blast. Let me say it that way. What made you feel you could put yourself on blast?
Again, I think it was a part of my own healing journey. As Christians, as a Christian individual, sometimes we want to keep those things hidden because we don't want society to judge us, thinking that we're a little less than perfect. And also, too, just the lessons in my life, the painful lessons, is saying to readers that, you know what, there is life after pain. And in more pain, there's still some more life. And I decided, let me just keep it real. I've wore mask the majority of my life. I've had mask after mask, even working in the community, whether that's with homeless and families or individual. And I can hear their stories. And though some of their stories sounded like mine, I kept the mask on. I kept it on for my children. I kept it on for my community. But I was hiding with a silent mask. And I found a voice. And that's why Can You Hear Me Now is so important to me, because I started speaking up. And I said, if I'm going to tell it, let me tell it. Now, I didn't go cupcake brown on folks. I didn't get ratchet. But I wanted to be very authentic and real with my story, because it was my pathway to healing. So that 2013, folks didn't even get to 2013, 2021. And I found that, I've been in church for a long time, off and on, straddling both sides of the fence. But when I met Pastor Kelsey Steele, I was in a dark place in 2000, from 2015 to 2018. And I decided to give up on church. I was like, God he has forgotten about me, disappoint, because I'm dealing with my issues, but the people who are involved in me, who have the issues with me, don't want to deal with the issue. So when I visited this church in my community for a long time, and I met this man of God, and I decided to become a member there, he just basically said to me, I said, I'll sit in the pews for a while. And he only let me sit for 3 to 4 months. And there he began to embrace me in ministry. And I had not worked in 5 years. And then all of a sudden things just started to unfold in my life. But yet while unfolding, I still needed to deal with the issues in my life.
Yes.
And so that's when I sought out therapy.
If I can just, from an economic standpoint, Sylvia, because I've been involved with publishing and marketing for several decades, and so many people think that they have to, that they're intimidated by who's going to read it, how large my audience will be, how large my reach. They'll be concerned about the economic value versus the community value versus the personal value. Yeah. And self-publishing, I really love that people are adopting and understanding that we can express our voices and not be intimidated and not expect. You may not win a Pulitzer Prize for this, but I'll tell you, this is a if you're involved with sociology or anthropology or religion, if you teach at the divinity school right now, if you teach at Yale in the history department, if you teach in the anthropology department, you should read this book. This in my mind, this is also not only a community sharing offering, but it's academic information. It's on the ground information in terms of what does life mean. And you mentioned words, you referenced earlier being scorned. Elaborate on that a little bit, because sometimes we scorn, we look down on one another, we hold our nose, and that issue, that dynamic in our community is negative.
Right. And so when I say scorn, so first of all, you know this more than anything, Tom, that the Black and Brown community has a tolerance level, and it is full of resilience. However, I was my worst critic. I was my own enemy. And scorn meaning that sometimes in our community, we don't embrace what's broken. And in order to fix what's broken, we have to identify what the issues are. And so my biggest challenge with writing this book was, I'm going to be judged. And I don't want to, I want to give out nuggets so that folks can read the book, but I was a single mother of 6 children with 3 baby daddies. You know what I'm saying?
Say that again.
3 baby daddies. And though I didn't set out on that journey, it's just the way that my life unfolded. I was looking for love that I never even knew what love was. But out of these journeys and it came beautiful individuals and unique individuals. But I was guilty, and I was ashamed of how they were conceived, because they weren't conceived in the way that biblically they're supposed to be conceived. I've never been married. And I just live with a shame. God didn't have to, say you did this and you were wrong. I did enough of that for God, and He was trying to show me His unconditional love, that no matter what you do, I still love you, and I still couldn't embrace His love or His forgiveness. And doing that and having that mindset, it was hard for me to forgive. And so it's scornful, we just don't do that. We hide that. We don't talk about that. And I'm not ashamed of that anymore. I'm not ashamed of my children. And readers will know how I got to that point. He does say, oh, they having all those babies and, things like that. You never know someone's story and how they came about it. And I just had certain patterns in my life the scorn, and I was ashamed. I was really ashamed. And I tucked that into readers will see my silent cave. My silence was near and dear to me. Don't you touch it. It belongs to me. It is my silence. And all that shame and scornful mindset was tucked in that cave.
And I'm really glad that you referenced Reverend Steele listening in. And if he was on the call, he would probably remind us about the part in the Bible about the lady at the well.
Woman at the well, yes.
And what Jesus said to the folks that were observing that scorning with stones, etc. Share a few other nuggets, if you will. Again, I don't want to give the story away, so it's up to you about how much you want.
So Tom, as you read the book, it seemed like I had this certain pattern that followed me all my life in the men that I encounter in, and it never failed that the same description of the men that I encounter had the same demographics and just the way that I met them and what was going on with them. And I was like, I must be, and you saw this in the book, I say in the book, I must be this billboard, saying, come to me, I'm this person that, if you want to meet someone and you have this going on, I'm that woman, I'm that girl. And I was like, why didn't I learn the first time? Why didn't I learn the second time? Why didn't I learn the third time and the fourth time? And it seemed like I was a magnet for those type of men. I don't know why, but, I was, and for some reason, I wasn't connecting the next situation to the next situation. And I do say in the book, and I don't elaborate on it a great deal, but I do say in the book that when in my life, I can only speak for Sylvia's life, when you're not shown and directed how to embrace the value of who you are, when there's no embracing of emotional connection in your home, when you're not taught how to love, and what to be on the lookout for, or the value of who you are, you're subject to embracing anything. And I didn't know that. The first person who said, "Oh, you're beautiful," or the first time I got roses from a man, I just thought he was the one. There's, that's something that, it's okay. But for me, that was love. And it was misinterpreted, but I didn't know. I was never taught that because I came from a family that really didn't talk about emotions. That cooked food on the table. We had a clean house, but emotions was not shown. And I didn't get the pointers and the direction of this is what you need to be on the lookout for, because something that I wanted growing up, and I was always looking for being special. Who's gonna notice me? And I talk about that in the book. Here I am. I want to be somebody special. Can I be special? And I found that all in the wrong places.
Again, the title of the book, I Had a Right to Remain Silent. Can You Hear Me Now by Sylvia Cooper. Sylvia, for folks that, as you say, and hopefully the audience can understand that if everything was perfect, you would invite the universe on Saturday, but it is a kind of a closed event. But folks can participate, how in terms of getting their own personal copy of the book?
Folks can participate, and I really wished I could have had the number of people I wanted, but I want to, and Tom, I am a crisis counselor, so I'm very sensitive and very, in tune to what we should do as far as COVID guidelines. But if folks, I want you to be able to purchase the book, and how you can get the book now is it's on Amazon Amazon bookstore. It's also on Barnes and Nobles. A couple of weeks from now, it's going to be available in ebooks. And I hope to, within the next year, have it translated into Spanish. But for now, folks can go on Amazon. I have books for the signing, and I anticipate that they will all be purchased at the signing. But for now, you can order your copy on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. And if the book really isn't for you, if you find I like it, but it doesn't relate to me, there's someone out there.
Yes.
Story is so many other people's story. It's to give it.
And that's what really, really, I mean, there are 5 or 6 things that still remain in my consciousness about what I love about the book. But yeah, if, as you say, if it doesn't resonate with a particular person, there's someone in your network that this will be helpful to, will be inspirational to. They may say, this is boring because I've gone through it. But even when the person says it's boring, they're really admitting that it's something that they can identify with. So there's so many ways to kind of make this. If women's groups want to ask you to kind of speak about this or your life experience, are you open to that moving down the road?
Yes. So I have my own LLC. It's SCC Productions LLC company. And I'm releasing the book under that name. I am going to be available for public speaking and doing book signings, talking to women's group, as well as universal or both men and women. I will be available. Folks can contact my assistant, and I'll have the number. She's on the phone right now. She's on listening with us, but I do have the information that I can share about my contact information, and it will be available for the folks that night at the event. But we will be, the marketing team for the publishing company will be taking over. And that's going to be on my website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account, how folks can reach out to me if they would like for me to come to speak or do a book signing. So
I'll be there on Saturday also to kind of join in the celebration. Looking forward. What do you say, Sylvia? What would you say, or think of saying? And you probably have actually said this to young children, and girls in particular, that have their own, if you will, cave of silence. What would you say to them, for them to kind of find their place of refuge?
Well, interesting enough, this book has really it's leveraging me an opportunity to talk about various subjects. And for children, for me growing up, writing, reading, oh my God, I loved to read when I was a child because I was trying to escape what was going on in my house. And I also just loved it. But I think children who are going through this, young children or preteens, that they can reach out, find that one trusting person, and I didn't do that, to be able to confide in, They could reach out to groups, and you know how I feel about advocacy work.
Mhm.
The Q House is now open back up. Find something, the gift within inside themselves,
Hmm.
reach out to. If it's not writing, it could be music, it could be poetry, it could be acting, because I truly believe the gifts that you have inside of you is the pathway for your healing. We didn't talk about mental health when I was little. It's just something that the Black and Brown communities did not talk about. I believe in doctors as a Christian. I believe God can do miracles, He can do anything. But I believe in support groups. I believe in people seeking out support so that they don't stay stagnant. And I know that as a kid and what I endured, if I could just say, I wanted to say something to my teachers,
Hmm.
and the silence was there. And I was like, who's going to believe me?
Hmm.
And finding a trusted, maybe a family member that's not in your household, maybe it's a teacher, but there's so much fear behind that because you don't want to get people in trouble. You don't
Mhm.
want, to cause something, and you wear that burden on, but you're suffering in silence. So I think that we need to do more in our school systems. When I was a young child, I had a group leader from Yale. I was a Brownie and Girl Scout. I think that our children need to know that if we don't get the support within our families and our networks of community, that there are folks out there that can help them without causing harm to the family, if you
Indeed,
will.
indeed.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned the revival, resurrection, and the renaissance of the Q House, and then we have folks like Clifford Beers, et cetera, and it's just so important. What's going through your mind at this particular moment right now?
What was going through my mind in this particular moment, I'm so honored to be here and that you allowed this opportunity for me to come together. My living room is filled of banners and post boards, and we're going to be raffling off a 50-inch Amazon Fire television for those who present their vaccination cards
Hmm.
when they come in. Now, we're not mandating vaccination cards, but we are mandating masks. Again, I'm very conscious of that. But it's an incentive to say, in my work, we want to move folks to hesitancy, to confidence, but it's just a way of saying we want you to be safe. And it's just to bring in that spirit of we are doing this in our community. And the incentive is that if you show your vaccination card, you can walk out with a 50-inch smart television. That was just something that the team, we decided to do collectively. I'm thinking now I have butterflies in my stomach. I've been married. I've never really put myself out there, but I do know that the masks are off. I'm exposed now.
Hmm.
So I'm excited.
Yes.
I can't put into words how I feel. And it's almost like, I pull back a little bit, like, is this really happening? Is this really happening? That, we're talking about my writing styles. We're talking about being exposed, me telling my truths. So it's a combination of feelings. And again, that 26 years ago, the Lord gave me a vision to create the Hope Program.
Yes.
At the Hospital of St. Raphael's. And it's 26 years old after all the stuff that I was enduring around that time. And so readers are going to see that. And when you plant seeds, even though you may not see the full harvest of it, it still grows. And sometimes God will give you let you go back and see, there goes some of your seeds. There goes some of your seeds. It continues to live on. And so I'm excited about that too, that the Hope Program is continuing to go on at St. Raphael's. Doe Hayward is going to be one of my guests. She's the program coordinator. Excited about that.
Oh, and speaking of Doe, I haven't seen her in 20 plus years, so
you'll see her Saturday.
See her Saturday. And when I saw in the book about your involvement with the Hope Program, I was able to post some of the videos. At that time, the videos were not as clear as they are now. So our paths have crossed in a variety of ways over almost three decades. A shout out to your team. It's so important when I do a show for people to understand, regardless of what you're doing, teamwork is, dream work, teamwork, it's connected. Who's some of the folks that are supporting you?
So, the wonderful thing about this whole project is I have, and as I say in my acknowledgments, if you get one good friend in life, you're lucky. But God granted me favor with 5. And my best friends have come to the table with their various gifts and talents. And they have surrounded me, and they took the pieces of the project, and they have, we've come up with this event. So I have, Tannis Bailey, who's one of my best friends. She is the daughter of Walter Bailey, Sr., Walter Bailey, who's at Yale. She is our set design graphic person. She is a phenomenal graphics person and design. She's brought that to the table. My best friend Delphine is my manager. She coordinates my schedule and connect with all those folks who are, just need to be able to be in the right place. Kenesha Crenshaw, I met her in advocacy work years ago. She is my personal assistant. She does all the computer things. Jelina Torrey, I met her years ago at Christian Community Action. She's my best friend. She's my financial advisor, making sure the budget's on task. Leslie Green, who's now via Atlanta. She's our spiritual advisor, who's going to be traveling from Atlanta to be here with us. We fast together, we pray together, we meet weekly on Zoom to make sure everyone's doing their job. And so I'm just excited to have these beautiful Black women around me with their various gifts and talents. When God opens a door for you, it's not just for you to go through. You can bring some people, because now their gifts are blossoming, and so appreciative of that.
So well said. So well said. I was thinking,
not to mention my pastor, Kelsey Steele. I'm just gonna blow him up because
blow him up
because when I go to pastor and sometimes he'll say we're doing this, doing that. But when I told him a year ago that 2 years ago, I wrote the manuscript, and then I was seeking out ways in which I can publish. And he said, do what you do. I'm behind you 100%. Just to have, your spiritual leader believe in what you're doing. I said, well, Pastor, this book has it's not churchy, but you see the hand of God through my life. But and he said, do what you have to do, and he just believes in that. He gave me room to grow in ministry, but as well as to do this project, and so, because I'm a minister in training, and there's certain protocols and trainings I have to go in. So he's given me a space to do this. And then I will pursue the next level of training in this fall of 2022. And I appreciate that, he's opened the doors of many different opportunities that I've had. I'm the Imani Breakthrough Project Facilitator for the group at Yale Program for Community and Health, which is a group that focuses on mental health, substance abuse, and alcohol and substance abuse. I have Robin Anderson as a crisis counselor, and we work with FEMA last year, and this year we're working with Coach 2, which is a DEMIS grant that focuses on people who are struggling with substance use and mental health. Now, before I wrote this book, I guess God had it in the plans that I would understand this population, because I'm working one-on-one now. And as I read the manuscript after edit, they sent it back to me saying, wait a minute here. I can see a little bit of my life in this, because I understand now that, you can't choose your family. And I understand the journey that folks have when they're exposed to trauma. And I can tell you, Tom, when I was a transitional housing case manager, or whether I'm working with this population now, 3 out of 5 people that I work with have experienced trauma, especially around sexual molestation. And what prompted me to go ahead and do the book, I was in conversation with a woman. She said to me, we were talking about it because it does come up often in conversations with people in general. She says, well, I went through that too, but it's normal. That's normal. And that is not unacceptable. It is not normal. And so, just being able to have these open conversations now, there's nothing normal about it. I pitched this book 5 years ago at the writing studio in Westport, Connecticut. I took my girlfriend Delphine and said, listen, they're looking for writers. They're going to have 3 winners and they'll help you publish your book. And when I went up there, you go into this room and you have like 30 people and they're pitching their samples of their book. And I was like, oh my God, they're drinking their mimosas. They don't look like me. And so I put I, pitch a piece of the beginning, and several agents, New York, the New York Post and different things. And the woman says to me, everybody's clapping. I like it. He says, but you're not ready yet. I was like, oh my God, devastating. And she said, in 1 year, because my book, the original name of the book was not I Had a Right to Remain Silent. It was something else, because I wrote the book in darkness. He said, you'll be ready in another year. Come back in another year. And so I went home. I got a call maybe 3 weeks later. The writing studio was offering classes at maybe $500, $600 a class. They called me and said, you were considered to be published. However, they went with 3 other contestants. However, they really liked your material. So we're going to give you a scholarship for classes to learn how to memoir write. And I figure I came out the winner on that.
That's
so
right.
Spring semester in 2016 of talking about memoir writing and why we write it. And so I that was just really a blessed thing for me. And so the book it became, a body. It added arms and legs and eyes and nose as I took the classes. And I just put myself out there.
I really appreciate you sharing that. The transparency is profound. I was really, I have difficulty remembering a lot of stuff that went on in my life when I was in teenagers or early 20s, and the specific anecdotes and the locations and the narrative that permeates the book. Just the specificity just really knocks my socks off. Is that something you had to talk to other people about? How did you kind of remember things when you were in elementary school and middle school?
Tom, I'm just, I think it's the writer in me, or I'm very imaginative. When I read the Bible, I don't see words. I see live visual things. Like if I'm reading Daniel in the den of the lion, I see the den, the lion in his outfit. If you're talking about the woman at the well, I see the vase on top of her head, and Jesus is in his outfit, and I see the fights in the opening of the Red Sea. I just have this thing that I see things visually. When I was growing up, I remember that day. Now I'm going to give the listeners something. The day my grandmother brought me to Connecticut to live with my mother, I can remember the feeling of my throat being scratchy as I screamed for her when she left my sister and me. I remember the bay window looking out in Fairhaven of her walking down the street. I remember the conversations that they were in the living room, and I was peeking around the corner because something's about to go on. I was a very young girl, but I remembered that it just stuck with me. I remember I don't remember everything in my life, but significant points in my life, I remember. And I think that's the gift comes from God. And that's how I was able to, storyboard and remember the things that happened to me. And they just stayed with me.
You remember the subs at, what was it, the place on Chapel?
Oh, Miss Mary's, the Penguin Subs. She was a butcher, the first African-American in our community butcher. She sliced meat. Miss Mary Stewart, God rest her soul. Those subs were 99 cents. And our people would come walking from all over to get her subs. And, I would watch her slice the cheese. And if your mom needed, my mom needed, pork chops cut, center cut, she would take that butcher and she would shave the meat and she would cut it and different things. We didn't have to go to a butcher outside of our community. She provided that. And just, I can smell the subs now, just that lingering kind of effect in the back of your mind. I remember I can smell my grandmother right now. Pepper candy and the Avon makeup, it just stayed with me.
And you reference the females in your life, your mother, your grandmother. Talk a little bit about that lineage.
So my great grandmother, Belinda Whitfield, was born in the mid 1900s. My great grandfather, Joseph, was born 1900. And my great great grandparents were the midwives and doctors in the community. They were sharecroppers. And my grandmother was the oldest of 21 children.
Mm.
And, in the book, readers will see how, I grew up knowing my great grandparents, and to me, they were always old. And when I was little, my grandmother, my mom is the same age as some of her aunts and uncles are older than them.
Mm.
And so, going down south, as I said in the book, I handed tobacco one summer. As a child, I stayed down there and I handed tobacco, and it was the worst thing I could ever do because I could never get that stench, that smell off my hands. But my great grandmother was a beautiful little woman who birthed all those children. And here's another teaser I'm going to throw out. Tom, you read the book. When I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Brittany, she was in a hospital because at that time they would let her stay south, bring her up here so they can share the responsibility of her aging. And my great grandfather died in 1985. And so this is 1988. And I was big pregnant and I was working. I was tired of carrying my daughter. And I didn't have an ultrasound because I knew she was going to be a girl. So I went to visit my great grandmother in the hospital. And I had this green maternity dress and she was dehydrated. And I said to her, we called her Gecka. We didn't call her Belinda. I said, I'm tired of being pregnant. And she wanted me to take the IV out of her arm. And I said, no, no, no. And I sat there and I said, Gecka, I'm so tired of being, and she rubbed my belly. And she said, it's okay, baby. I had a dream. My family are dreamers. You gonna have a little girl. The baby is a girl. And that was confirmation enough for me. Didn't need an ultrasound or anything. And I only had one name picked out. She said, it's a girl. And lo and behold, I did give birth to a girl. And I was preparing to bring the baby to see her. She was frail. And she died 10 days before. She died the day I was going to bring my daughter to see her. She died that morning. So, yeah.
The word, I'm not sure back in the day that the word side piece was as well known as it is now. But you've referenced those sexual relations journeys that you've had. And my question is, share or talk about a little bit to the males that might be listening, to the men that might be listening. It's I was thinking, Sylvia, if I can be really transparent, that even a female should talk to you about this show, because I'm not sure a male should be talking to you about it during this show. But I guess I took up the cross. But what do you say to the guys? Because ambivalent is really not the right word, but there is a history of male behavior that is not that we cannot be that proud of.
Well, I have 4 boys. The 6 children I have 4 boys. I think my experience have been somewhat negative because of the relationships that I've had and the trauma that happened in my house. And I had to find, there's the part of the story where I was in the Phoenix drill team with Tony Goodman and Mr. Hamilton.
Yes.
I found male figures that way. And this was in the 80s. The 80s, where I joined the rifle squad for the Phoenix drill team. And Mr. Hamilton, though he was stern, though he was strict, he yelled at drills, he loved us. He would tear us down and build us up. And unfortunately, I did not have that experience. And I truly believe, even with the negative relationships that I've had and I've instilled in my boys, I can't be a man, But they found mentors, and later on with their dads, they found a relationship with men. But I do believe men are so needed in a boy and girl's life to build to knit together. You need both. And have it in your family, if you can get it from anywhere, positive, respectful, it would be a great thing, because we need more male role models in our lives just as much as boys need them as well. A girl needs to know that she's beautiful, she's respectful, and she needs to know that she's worth everything. I found that in God. I found it in God, but in the earth realm, I just had such negative experiences with men, and it broke my ability to trust. I didn't trust. And I vowed, and I said to God, my boys will grow up respecting women. My boys will grow up knowing their value and their self-worth. And it really paid off. And so I hope that this book creates those conversations for men and women. The importance of male figures in your life. And because when they're negative, and they do impact your life. My experience, starting as a little girl with men in my life impacted my relationship, my ability not to be able to trust, and having that ability to embrace when someone comes along and say, hey, I want to get to know you, and you saying, all the antennas are going up in your head. And that's where my healing journey, it continues to take part in. But I think men are so essential to our communities. And it's funny because I work majority with men in the Amani Breakthrough Project, as well as the crisis counselor. Most of the people on my caseload are men. And they hurt too. Men hurt too.
So what are some of the healing issues that we guys can kind of focus on or seek a remedy for?
Well, I think men just need to be open and just understanding a woman's role, a woman's feelings. I think that that's a two-way street. The woman needs to do the same thing. I think that men need to understand that, brokenness, it may not be right there. It may be something from a woman's past. And a woman needs to know that she can trust you with her brokenness and that she's not going to scare you away. And you can handle that. We don't talk about men sexual abuse because it's even more shameful for a woman. They're masculine. They don't want to talk about that. But mostly women who've been experienced sexual molestation or rape or abuse are women, but men have experienced it as well. And so they need to be able to have those trusted conversations that they can talk about that as well without feeling like it's going to downplay their manhood.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that this book creates those conversations without making people devalued because of what they've experienced.
And I had mentioned to Julia, my wife, just that the book, just any family, when people go on family retreats or the holiday season, you just have it laying around your house and just somebody might pick it up. And it's kind of a facilitator, if you will. It can be an actual facilitator for a discussion in my mind. I mean, so many ramifications of it. Great. We have about 10 more minutes. I want to ask kind of an academic or theoretical question, and I want to try to tie in the love of self, trauma, and COVID and flu hesitancy. Is there any connection in your mind, given your experiences of working with HOPE and Christian Community Action and then the Housing Authority and other places, and then today, in other words, seeing how people are willing to take the risk to expose themselves to COVID and to take the risk of sharing and infecting others? Do you think there's any, is there a psychological dynamic kicking in terms of lack of self-worth, lack of self-esteem, or is there any connection in your mind?
Tom, that's a great question. And, as we connect the dots of the work that I've done in the community, yes, I think it's a combination of lack of trust of government, lack of trust of we need to be more educated about. I understand that folks are hesitant because of the government and what they've done in the past, but at the same time, we don't trust. Something goes wrong and like, I told you so. And I think that we need to be more educated on, why we're being vaccinated. I think that people have experienced enough trauma in their lives and they're like, no, I'm not gonna let anybody touch me. And I think this is a great time for us who are in these positions to educate our own community. People just don't trust. And I can tell you right now, some of the folks that I deal with is the fact that they beat themselves up so much. We don't have to beat them up. They feel that they're not even valued enough because of their past to even get vaccinated. I've destroyed my life with substance abuse. I have mental health illness. I kind of don't understand it, but especially in the substance use community, they feel like I've done every negative thing I can possibly do. Why should I get the vaccination? Only to find out that I'm already sicker than what I am. And finding the fact that they are valued. And we need to be able to help our brothers and sisters understand their value when I learned, not when I came upon, not what I found, because Pastor still said we have Jesus and we can use therapists too. When I found out the value of who I was, when I can actually look in the mirror and say, girl, I like you. I became to understand the value of who I was. And that value saying that I want to stay healthy for me, my children and my grandchildren and my neighbor. And finding self-worth is not something you're going to always do when you hit the jackpot or the lotto. It's not going to be if you marry someone with money or you look beautiful. It is something that comes from within, that comes out. And sometimes you just need help. You need help for people to see help you see who you are, but the ultimate work is going to be on you. And I think with all this stuff going on in our society now with COVID, the opioid crisis that we had prior to COVID, poverty, not understanding your value, right to vote, and who you really are and the power that you possess, that if folks can find the pit inside of them, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, we can really, really move to a journey of healing and embrace what science says. We have some of the best scientists, African-American and Latinx scientists, who are involved in making this vaccine.
Yes.
And so we want to be honored about that. And we want to educate ourselves. Folks are telling me at the Thanksgiving table, or they're telling me in conversation, okay, no, I don't have the 100% facts, but what I do know is this is what they're dealing with right now, and educating oneself. And I do think it's a combination of folks have been dealt a bad hand in life, and what you can own, you own. But self-worth is going to play a part in us moving to herd community, and that we're not just doing this for ourselves anymore. We're doing this for our neighbors, our children, our grandchildren. And that's the message that I continue to carry. And folks just didn't get it. People feel like they're worthless. And if I'm worthless, why bother taking the vaccine? I'm going to die anyway. I'm worthless. What does it matter? I'm worthless. Haven't I had a mammogram and I'm 40 plus years? What's the difference? I'm going to die anyway. And I believe that people, no matter where you've been, you are worth that and then some. The greatest gift that God has given us is love. So that's my message.
Are you willing to share the moment or moments that caused you to embrace the Christian road? Was it a sermon from Reverend Steele? Was it an event that did you have a dream in terms of your conversion?
I was a Christian. I was brought up in the church, apostolic, and with the dollies on your head, and that's fine. I don't knock any religious groups that I've been a part of. I've had great teachings and things like that. I think at the age of 56, being 4 years at Barrack, it just embraced who I was and the gift that I have. It just allowed me to expand. But I got saved living with a man, and that's the book too. No one tells you, see, when we say come to the altar and receive salvation, we think that's it and you're fine. No, sometimes we're going to get saved in really difficult situations, and we have to grow in salvation in our walk with the Lord. And I was just confused, like, okay, what do I do now? This man is helping me pay half my bills, but I just came to the altar to give my life to Christ. And it's a process of growing. And I think the maturity of my growth in Christ was, once I believed that God loved me, he forgave me, he forgives me continuously. It's day to day that you can't be independent with a God that you're supposed to depend on. Because I'm just independent. I don't want to bother nobody. I can prove that I can do this. I'm in control of everything. And then God was just waiting for me to say, are you ready to surrender? And because you can't be independent with me. You can depend on me, but you can't be dependent from me. And so I realized that. I think that's when I really, really embraced the fact that, I do deserve a good life. I do. Those trials and tribulations will come, but I can embrace the good that God is offering. And so I've been in church since I was 10 years old. I'm just now learning this now at 50 years old.
Well, as you say, it's a growing experience. It's
growing experience.
It's a Phoenix-like experience, a daily walk, and 24/7, 365. We have about three more minutes. So I want Harry. Way it goes is, as you know, Harry will play the music, and that means we're being kicked off. But we have about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Any kind of thoughts on your mind? I might have a follow-up question, but I just want to hear what's going on with you.
Again, what's going in my mind is the fact that, this is happening. I hope this book creates good dialogue. Uncomfortable it may be, some of it, but it creates good dialogue that we as a people, whether you're Black, white, Latinx, it doesn't matter. We've all been created by a God who loves us all. But I want the conversations to continue. I want to talk about epilepsy and how many people are diagnosed with a brain disorder. I want to talk about mental health. Has it impacted us? And I also want to talk about sexual molestation amongst Black and brown families in our community.
Well, as we conclude, maybe share, people may not know that you are dealing with epilepsy.
Yeah. I was diagnosed in 2011 with epilepsy, and I had seizures in my sleep, which is now controlled by medication. But this is why we're here now. It came to place me under arrest. And so I had to deal with the pain of my past and in order to embrace my future. And I became vulnerable to the condition. I take 10 pills a day to control my seizures. And as a result of this conditions, and I see a specialist, I had to, in order to go forward, I had to deal with the past in order for me to have a future. And I couldn't hide any longer. And epilepsy took my physical speech. It just was a very earthquake experience in my life. And I finally said, if I'm going to have anything left in this life, I got to deal with the pain in my past.
And for the future, the next book, what are the next 1 or 2 or 3 books in your mind?
So I already, I did write it. I'm almost finished the sequel to the novel, but I do have a book that's in, that's gonna, once I get this out, maybe 6 months to a year, I am starting to storyboard the next book. It's called What's in Your Cart. When I go in a grocery store, I always love seeing people interact. Cash people in the parking lot, haven't seen each other in a long time. Folks returning bottles. And then when I'm behind someone, I always look what's in their cart because it tells a story about their lives. And so this will encompass 3 people connecting with one another based on what's in their cart.
Well, you got to come.
Fiction writing.
You got to come look in my cart or in my refrigerator. I want to be part of that. We have about 10 more seconds. There he goes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. See you Saturday.
See you Saturday.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition.
This is Harry Girls, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven.
In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Yeah, this is my road. Let's camera